Elon Musk just looked at the silver situation and said, "This is not good. Silver is needed in many industrial processes." And if that sentence sounds calm, it's because billionaires don't shout, they signal. Today's number matters. Silver is hovering around the $99 zone after printing fresh record highs this week. The $100 line isn't just psychology, it's a cost threshold for the machines that run modern life. Here's the real reason Musk even spoke up. A new export licensing regime took effect on January 1st, 2026. It means exporters must meet strict qualification rules to ship silver out. Industry reporting says this framework sits on top of a supply chain where roughly 60-70% of globally traded refined silver is processed through China. So when the gate changes, the entire world's just-in-time silver flow changes with it. No speeches, no slogans, just paperwork, thresholds, and approvals. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. It looks boring, right until it doesn't. Let's talk Tesla vulnerability. Pure engineering, no drama. A battery EV uses more silver than a typical gas car because EVs pack power electronics, high current contacts, sensors, and control systems. Most estimates put silver use in a battery EV in the range of 25 to 50 grams, roughly 0.8 to 1.6 troy ounces per vehicle. Now, do the math with me. At $30 silver, 1 ounce is a rounding error. At $100 silver, 1 ounce is a line item. If you're building millions of vehicles, line item becomes margin pressure. And margin pressure becomes fewer cars, higher prices, or thinner profits. So, here's the question nobody wants to say out loud. If silver turns into a controlled, premium-priced industrial input, does the EV boom hit a bottleneck? Comment silver if you think $100 is the doorway, not the destination. If you want the full breakdown, how the export rules, price gaps, and paper versus physical mechanics connect, stay with me. Because the twist is this. The most important silver story is not the chart, it's the delivery. When Musk says this is not good, he's not doing investor hype. He's doing supply chain math. Silver isn't nice to have for modern manufacturing. It's a performance metal. High conductivity, high corrosion resistance, reliable contacts, high efficiency soldering and coatings. You can thrift it, you can redesign around it, but you can't just wish it away, especially not at scale. And Tesla isn't the only part of the Musk ecosystem that touches silver. Starlink satellites use high reliability electronics and connectors. Data centers, especially high-density compute, are built on grids of contacts, switches, and power systems that burn through conductive materials. So if silver availability tightens, the stress doesn't just land on cars, it lands on networks. Let's keep this non-political and strictly mechanical. A licensing rule is not a headline, it's a filter. Reporting on the new export regime says firms may need to clear requirements like minimum annual production capacity thresholds, often cited around 80 tons, verified financing capacity or credit facilities, figures around $30 million are referenced, and documented export track records. Whether every detail is identical across every case, the direction is clear. Fewer exporters qualify. Approval timelines get longer, and the market shifts from any supplier can ship to only approved suppliers can ship. That matters because silver is not like oil. You can't just open a spigot tomorrow. A lot of silver supply comes as a byproduct of other mining, so supply response is slow, while industrial demand is fast. Now we get to the part that makes manufacturers nervous. When supply is tight, prices split. Multiple analysts and market notes have pointed to silver trading at a premium in China versus Western benchmarks, often cited as roughly $5 to $10 per ounce at points in late 2025 and early 2026. That premium is a signal. Somebody is paying extra to secure metal on the ground. Think of it like this. The chart is the billboard price. The premium is the we need it delivered by Tuesday price. And when that premium sticks around, it tells you arbitrage is not instant. It tells you the pipes are narrower than the demand. Here's where the story turns from economics into structure. The silver price you see on your screen is often discovered in paper-heavy markets, futures, options, ETFs, and other derivatives. And here's the stat that keeps showing up in 2026 commentary. A paper-to-physical ratio around 356.1, meaning hundreds of paper claims for each ounce of physical silver that can actually be delivered. Let me be careful with language here. A paper market can function, it provides liquidity and hedging. But when physical is tight, paper can't magically create atoms. So the question becomes, what happens if a large industrial buyer says, don't quote me a contract, quote me a delivery schedule? If even a small fraction of paper holders demand delivery at once, the system has to ration, and rationing can show up as higher premiums, longer lead times, tighter lease rates, and more volatility, because the market is trying to find the real clearing price for physical availability. Tesla doesn't buy spot silver the way a retail investor imagines. It buys components. And those components embed silver in tiny critical places: contacts, relays, connectors, solders, and power electronics. So the impact is not Tesla buys bars. The impact is every supplier in the chain suddenly has a higher input cost, or a longer wait time, or both. Now let's do a clean, simple cost illustration. Assume 1.0 ounce of silver per EV as a round estimate inside that 0.8 to 1.6 range. If silver rises from $30 to $100, that's $70 per ounce. Multiply by 2 million vehicles, that's $140 million. Multiply by 5 million vehicles, that's $350 million. And that's only the direct metal value, not the knock-on effects like higher scrap rates from redesigns, higher inventory buffers, supplier renegotiations, and the chaos cost of lead time uncertainty. That's why Musk's sentence matters. Because in manufacturing, uncertainty costs more than price. So here's the controversial but non-political framing. Silver is a quiet kill switch for electrification, not because it's rare, but because it's bottlenecked. The world wants EVs, solar, data centers, robotics, telecom, and high-voltage grids all at once. And silver is woven through all of it. Not always in huge quantities per unit, sometimes in grams, but in the exact grams you cannot remove without performance loss. A shortage doesn't have to mean zero supply. A shortage can mean you can have it, but not fast and not cheap. And for high-volume manufacturers, not fast is the real nightmare. People ask, is Musk about to buy a silver mine? That's the wrong first question. The smarter question is, how does a manufacturer de-risk a bottleneck metal? There are only a few levers: thrifting, reduce grams per unit through design changes; substitution, replace silver where performance tolerates it, often limited; recycling, pull silver back from scrap, end-of-life electronics, and process waste; inventory, build stockpiles, expensive but stabilizing; offtake contracts, lock long-term supply directly with producers and refiners; vertical integration, own more of the processing pipeline. Musk is famous for vertical integration instincts. So if you see Tesla, Starlink, or suppliers shifting contracts, building buffers, or securing long-term supply, that's your tell. Not a press release, a procurement move. Let's be honest, $100 gets clicks. But the deeper point is, once an industrial metal is priced like a strategic input, behavior changes. Manufacturers stop hoping for dips. They start asking, how much do we need on hand? Who are our approved suppliers? How long are lead times? What happens if a shipment is delayed? And what is our maximum acceptable price before we redesign the product? That's why a $100 print matters even if it pulls back. It forces boardrooms to update their assumptions. When people hear break Tesla, they imagine Tesla going bankrupt. That's not what I mean. A supply bottleneck breaks a company by breaking the plan. You can have demand, you can have factories, but if a critical input is constrained, your output is capped. So the risk is production targets get missed, delivery schedules slip, costs rise, and competitors who secured supply earlier take share. That's not drama. That's how manufacturing wars are actually lost. If you want to track this like a pro, ignore the noise and watch these 5 signals. East-west premium persistence. If Shanghai stays $5-10 above Western benchmarks, tightness is real. Lease rates and backwardation talk. When get it now becomes more expensive than get it later, you're seeing scarcity stress. Inventory commentary. Not rumors. Actual reported tightness, delivery delays, or rationing language from suppliers. Corporate procurement moves, long-term offtake deals, recycling expansions, redesign announcements, volatility around key levels, because the market is trying to price not just metal, but availability. Let's keep this grounded. Silver has surged hard across 2025 into early 2026, with record highs around the 90s and now near the $99 zone. Musk publicly flagged silver as a critical industrial input. China's new export licensing regime changes how refined silver can be shipped, which can tighten the effective supply available to global manufacturers. Price gaps and premiums signal that physical availability can diverge from paper-driven benchmark pricing. That combination is why this story is bigger than a chart. It's a supply chain story disguised as a commodity story. So here's my final line, short and sharp. If the world is electrifying everything and the plumbing for silver narrows, someone's production line becomes the pressure valve. And that's why Musk said what he said, not to scare you, to warn his own supply chain. If you want more updates like this, fast, mechanical, and focused on what matters, hit subscribe. Comment silver if you think the $100 era forces a redesign of the entire EV cost curve, and share this with the one friend who thinks commodities don't matter. Quick disclaimer, this video is for education and discussion, not financial advice. Do your own research, manage risk, and never bet more than you can afford to lose. Before we go further, let's draw hard lines. This is not a political rant. This is not a good guy, bad guy story. And it's not a magic trick where one law flips a switch overnight. It's a system story, a world that runs on high-performance electronics met a metal that can't be ramped quickly. Then the rules around who can ship it got stricter. And now the machine is learning in real time what scarcity feels like. When people hear export rules, they imagine a dramatic ban. Most of the time it's quieter than that. It's permission. Permission means delay, screening, thresholds, and paperwork. It doesn't have to stop every shipment to tighten supply. It only has to slow the marginal shipment, the one that sets the global price. If fewer companies qualify, the pool of available exporters shrinks. If the pool shrinks, buyers compete for fewer pipes. And when buyers compete, the premium shows up first, before the headline does. Here's a key concept that gets missed. A lot of silver isn't mined in one place and used in that same place. It's mined, shipped, refined, processed, fabricated, and only then turned into components. So when reporting says a huge portion of refined silver trade is processed through China, the point isn't nationalism. The point is logistics. It's like discovering a bridge that most trucks use to cross a river. If the bridge adds toll booths and inspection lanes, traffic slows. Same trucks, same drivers, same destination, different speed. And speed is what factories live on. Let's do the silver math like an engineer. Estimates for a battery electric vehicle often land around 25-50 grams of silver. Let's use a middle-of-the-road 40 grams for a thought experiment. 40 grams is about 1.29 troy ounces. Now apply prices. At $30 Oz, that's about $39 of silver embedded in the vehicle. At 100 Oz, that's about $129. Difference, roughly $90 per vehicle. Now scale it. 1 million vehicles, about $90 million. 2 million vehicles, about $180 million. 5 million vehicles, about $450 million. Again, this is direct metal cost only. It excludes supplier markups, retooling, process scrap, redesign validation, and the buffer inventory tax that companies pay when they no longer trust delivery timing. That's why price levels matter, not because a billionaire is nervous, because the spreadsheet is. Now zoom out. Cars are not the only silver pressure point. Satellites and high-reliability telecom hardware live on durable contacts and stable conductivity. A tiny connector failure in orbit isn't an oops, it's a permanent loss. Data centers are dense electricity, and dense electricity depends on switching, protection, and power distribution hardware that uses silver where reliability matters most. So even if the grams per unit sound small, the system-wide demand stacks, EVs plus solar, plus grid upgrades, plus telecom, plus compute. That's not a trend. That's the new baseline. Let's anchor this in today's tape. Reuters reported spot silver around $98.87 on January 23, 2026, after touching a record near $99.34. That's why everyone keeps saying $100, because the market is already living in the high 90s right now, not someday. And here's the dangerous part. Once prices get this high, volatility gets violent. Not because the metal changed, because positioning changed, because hedges roll, because margins adjust, because everyone is trying to stand in the doorway at once. Now watch the premium. Business reporting in early January flagged silver in China trading at a premium versus Western benchmarks, often described as roughly $5 to $10 per ounce. That's not a meme. That's what tight markets look like. In a smooth market, arbitrage closes gaps quickly. In a tight market, gaps persist because inventory is not a button you press. Inventory is metal that must be moved, refined, allocated, and delivered. And when industrial buyers pay up, they're not gambling. They're protecting production schedules. Now we connect the premium to the structure. A lot of 2026 commentary highlights a paper-to-physical ratio near 356.1. Hundreds of paper claims linked to each ounce of physical silver available for delivery. Again, paper markets can function. But when physical is tight, the paper market becomes a promise layer sitting above the atoms. So the tension is simple. If industrial users, people who need metal, not exposure, start insisting on physical assurance, the system has to find the price that clears physical demand. That price can be very different from the price that clears paper positioning. And when that difference shows up, you don't see it first on a chart. You see it in lead times and premiums. Let's be precise. Nobody has to attack anything. Systems break when they're asked to do what they weren't designed for. Futures markets are designed for hedging and cash settlement. Yes, delivery exists. But the system assumes most participants don't demand delivery at the same time. Now imagine an industrial buyer saying, I want guaranteed supply for production. not paper exposure. That doesn't mean Musk wants to own bars. It means he might want secured supply for his ecosystem. If enough real-world demand tries to pull metal through a paper pipe, the pipe narrows. And when pipes narrow, the market rations through price, through premiums, and through who gets allocated first. Here's the part people underestimate: time. If silver is expensive, you can sometimes adapt. If silver is expensive and uncertain, you're forced to overpay for certainty. Manufacturers hate uncertainty more than cost, because uncertainty forces safety stock, over-ordering, longer contracts, and higher working capital. Working capital is silent pain. It doesn't trend on Twitter, but it decides who can scale and who stalls. So when someone says, "This breaks Tesla," translate it as, "This breaks the growth plan by forcing expensive certainty." What's Tesla's counterplay? Thrifting. Reduce silver per unit without compromising reliability. Substitution. Use alternatives where acceptable: copper, nickel, aluminum plating, carefully, often limited. Process optimization. Less scrap, tighter tolerances, better recovery. Recycling. Pull silver back from manufacturing waste and end-of-life electronics. Offtake plus strategic inventory. Lock supply. Pre-negotiate delivery. Hold buffers. Vertical integration. Own more of the supply chain so you're not bidding in panic. None of these are instant. They're expensive, but they turn a crisis into a plan. Here's why this story spreads. It touches everything people care about. You want cheaper EVs? Silver matters. You want solar everywhere? Silver matters. You want faster internet and more satellites? Silver matters. You want AI everywhere? Silver matters. So when a single input tightens, it's not a niche story, it's a modern life story. If you remember one line from this entire video, make it this: delivery beats opinion. Charts are opinions. Supply chain is reality. Musk's "this is not good" is the sound of a supply chain noticing the pipes are narrowing. The new export licensing regime is the sound of a gate tightening. The premium is the sound of buyers paying for certainty. And $99 silver is the sound of the market trying to reprice what certainty costs. I want your take. Does $100 silver force Tesla and every EV maker to redesign the cost curve? Type silver if you think this is a structural era, not a temporary spike. And if you want the next update the moment the premium widens or $100 prints, subscribe. This is for education and discussion only. No financial advice, no instructions, just the mechanics. Myth 1. Silver is a tiny cost, so it can't matter. Reality. Tiny costs become big when they're multiplied by volume, and when they sit inside critical components. Myth 2. If silver gets expensive, they'll just replace it. Reality. Substitution exists, but performance and reliability are not optional in high current switching and precision electronics. Myth 3. If the price spikes, supply will surge. Reality. Much of silver output is a byproduct of other mining, so the response curve is slow. Myth 4. The benchmark price is the real price. Reality. The real price is what you pay to get delivery on time. Premiums and lead times tell you more than headlines. Myth 5. Volatility means the story is over. Reality. Volatility is what you get when paper positioning collides with physical scheduling. Imagine a factory that builds 5,000 cars a day. Everything is ready: robots, staff, steel, batteries, screens. Then one bin goes empty. Tiny contacts, tiny grams of silver in each. Suddenly the line stops. Not because the company is weak, because modern manufacturing is a chain, and chains break at the smallest link. Here's your simple watch list for the next 30 days. Does the East-West premium stay elevated? Do we hear more talk about longer lead times or tighter leasing? Do manufacturers announce recycling expansions or supply deals? Does silver hold above the high 90s or whipsaw through 100? And most importantly, do we see language shift from price to allocation? Because when allocation becomes the word, that's the moment the era changes. Elon Musk didn't tweet about a chart, he tweeted about a bottleneck. And bottlenecks don't negotiate, they squeeze. Is this a one-week story? No. A rule change plus tight inventories is a months-long story. Does this guarantee higher prices? Nothing guarantees anything. This is about pressure and probability, how systems behave under constraint. Does Tesla collapse? That's not the claim. The claim is friction. Higher costs, slower scaling, more supply chain bargaining power held by whoever can deliver metal. Can the market calm down? Yes, if premiums narrow, lead times normalize, and industrial buyers stop paying up for immediacy. And that's why you don't watch one candle. You watch the plumbing. In 2026, the commodity that matters is the one that controls timelines. Silver is small enough to squeeze, essential enough to matter, and embedded enough to hide until it's missing. So when you hear, "this is not good," hear the translation, Something just got harder to source on schedule. If you're looking for the headline, here it is. Silver isn't just up. It's being repriced as a manufacturing constraint. That's why the $100 line matters. Not because it's a round number, but because it forces real-world buyers to lock supply, redesign products, and pay for certainty. Drop silver in the comments, and I'll pin the best take.